There we go. Do you guys hear that as well when there's a lady who says, okay, cool. So as the lady says, we are recording. Welcome, everyone. It's great to see you all. So this is our second call, second of many to come. So we have a rough agenda. We definitely want to get to your questions as soon as possible. So just start with saying hi. You know me, Bedejo, CEO at JS Genesis, founder of the project. You have Ben, who probably all of you know as being the founding members are Overlord. You have Robert, who is actually our new head of marketing. So as you all have probably noticed, Joystream is not like a marketing heavy project, to put it lightly. So we're about to change that. We're all into the marketing from here on in. So we have Robert to help us out with that. So we think that's going to be really great. Maybe you want to say a few words, Robert, about yourself, if you want to.
Sure. Yeah, I'm happy to. And yeah, very exciting to be here. I'm officially joined the project a couple of days ago, but we've been working together for a couple of weeks. And I was on the last call, just kind of lurking, and I saw that there was a lot of questions around marketing. So it looks like there's demand for this, obviously for the project itself, but from you guys, the community as well. But don't have to worry. We're working on it. It's a big focus going forward. And I've been doing it for about 10 years. I ran my own business and generated many thousands of customers using digital marketing, and it will now, try to use my my skills and hopefully use some of you guys. I've already had some chats with people on Discord to get some insight for various different things. And yeah, I am Mr. Expat on Discord, by the way. Sometimes hard to know who is who. So feel free to message me with any questions you might have around marketing or anything along those lines. And you'll see me a lot more in the Discord. Just I'm trying to pump some life into the thing, and we'll get some more eyeballs on the project as well in the near future. So yeah.
Awesome. Great. Thank you so much, Robert. So I guess I should just mention, maybe you guys are wondering what's up with the releases we're working on. So there is, again, Giza, which is the new storage and distribution system being worked on. We initially estimated, like last time we made an announcement, it was November 1st. So obviously we're not going to hit that deadline. The best estimate now is December 10th, but realistically that could still be delayed. Testing has begun. I believe Tomato and the lead of the operations working group is testing it right now, and Martin is involved. So testing has begun. So it's very late and mature, but still being worked on. And then we have Olympia, which was supposed to be in December-ish. That probably will be in January then at the earliest, as we have to release one before the other. There are a lot of people working on both of those releases, and we're trying to get them to you as quickly as possible. They're major milestones for the project, but yeah, there's a little more time left before we can get them out. So that's that. I think with that, maybe it's best to just hand it over to you, Ben. I thought maybe Ben could just say a few words about the founding member program, about things he's been seeing, give some advice, and then definitely if you guys have questions or disputes or whatever, just jump in at any time. Is that all right, Ben?
Perfect. Right. So I'm just can everybody hear me with this microphone? Because this is a bit of a, sorry, I'm not used to using this one. Yeah. Is that okay? That's good.
Yeah. Go
Wonderful.
Okay.
I'm just going to share my screen then, and we'll see if we can.
Do I have to do something for that?
I think I can. I can do it from here.
Cool.
Right. So I've made it. I'm not sure how good this is going to be. I mean, hopefully we'll get through it pretty quickly, and then you can just start asking me some questions, basically. So, what am I trying to do in this? You can all see that, can't you? You can see that.
Yes.
Perfect. So what I wanted to talk about, because I guess people ask me quite a lot, is what I'm really, because obviously I'm sort of the king of this whole thing, the founding member program. So it's basically, and it sounds a bit ridiculous, obviously, when you put it like that. But at the moment, it is basically just my brain kind of processing these submissions and kind of calibrating what I think we really want to be having from you guys. And so I just want to talk about really what I'm looking for, basically, and then kind of cover some effective contributions I've seen, and then maybe some examples of less effective contributions, or certainly the ways people are maybe reporting them, at least. So it's not always the fact that the things people are doing are bad, but if I'm not actually seeing it in the report that you're doing something presented in a particular way for me to understand it, then it's challenging for me. So right, without further ado, so there are a number of different factors here. I'll go through this pretty quickly. That I
Maybe
use
you could
when
go into like presenter mode, because then you get it full screen.
Let me just see. Can you see that
There we
now?
go.
Is that
Yeah?
Mhm.
It would have been even better with your little head at the bottom, but we'll get that next time.
okay?
Go ahead.
So there are a number of factors, obviously, that I use when I'm thinking about this. Obviously, one of the first ones is the effort people are putting in. So even if it's not, is there a bit of feedback there? I think maybe somebody's microphone's on.
Someone's on the toilet or something. I'm going to mute X term X. I'm sorry, sir or madam. I'm just muting you. Go ahead.
So sorry. Obviously, I think about the effort people invest. So I mean, even if you're not necessarily doing a kind of contribution that we've
Hold on. Well, how do I need to see everyone again, then just mute. See, we should have had Martin here to fix this.
No, it's okay. Here, do this. Make me a co-host, and then I'll set this
All
up.
right.
Do you know how to do that?
Make host.
Do you have the list of all the people? Otherwise, you have to click participants on the bottom, and then you'll see all the people. And then you go to me on the right. You click.
I made you
more.
host. You're the host now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So do your thing with the muting. Go ahead, Ben.
Perfect. Go. Okay. Brilliant. So obviously, sorry, I'll start again with that. So I think about the effort first of all. If you're doing something that isn't really necessarily in the spirit of the program and you've put quite a lot of work into it, then I will be reasonably flexible with that, and I'll try to encourage you to maybe move those efforts in a different direction. But if you're trying to kind of commit yourself to the project, then that is really quite important to me. So yeah, that's the start. Just doing your best basically at whatever you're trying to do for us. Secondly, obviously a really important thing is trying to do creative kind of stuff. I mean, I'm just going to run through some examples in a minute, and it'll make it be a bit clearer what I mean by this. So creativity, uniqueness, detailed evidence. What I mean by it is reporting things properly, because I mean, as I said earlier, people do great stuff, and then I don't really see very much of what they mean when they say, "Oh, I was a content creator," for example. Well, what I really want to know is how many videos have you been curating? What is the process you're going through when you're doing that curation? Is there, how is the coordination with the other curators going? So that kind of stuff that is not necessarily information that I'm getting, because it's not like I'm monitoring 24/7 the test net and the processes of how everything's working. Fourth is, if you've got a technical talent, then obviously that's really valuable, because we need developers and things on the mainnet. So if you're able to do anything that's even remotely technical and do something towards that with the program, then that's super useful. So I'm kind of biased towards giving lots of points for that sort of thing. Obviously not scamming us, so that's good if you're not making up referral points. So good faith is there as well. If that's, yeah, I mean, just doing things with good intentions, obviously. Usefulness. So I mean, you'll all be aware that obviously we had the nodes before that we were giving rewards for. I think at one point that was quite useful, because it was kind of teaching people how to. It was kind of getting people with their foot in the door in the project, and kind of teaching people some technical skills and building that kind of thing up. But now I think, when you think how that is kind of working now, and just doing period after period and just running a node, and I'm giving you points every time for that, I think that's increasingly not valuable if there's hundreds of people doing that. So if I'm just giving everybody 75 points, obviously nobody's advancing at all, and there's no way for me to compare you to other people. So that's what I mean by relative usefulness. I mean, if loads of people are, it's almost there's some tasks which have very low barriers to entry, like tweeting or these kind of things, or video uploads, which are perfectly fine, and I want to recognize those things. But at the same time, if a robot can do them, then you're probably not. It's not really what we're looking for. I think Badejo mentioned last time that what we really want from this program is people that can help us to run the platform on mainnet. So you need to be kind of a kind of creative thinker, and not just be doing the bulk tasks that you might get from an ambassador program, rather than the founding member program, where you're really trying to kind of run the chain sort of thing. So I'm getting to the end of this now. Sorry. So seventh on that quite long list of things. If it's an on-chain thing that you're doing, that's pretty good. Versus, so for example, let me think of an example there. If you're making a video, then upload it to Atlas rather than putting it on YouTube, or if you're gonna do whatever, really just try and bias it as much towards the platform as you possibly can. And then obviously the final one is if what you're doing has some sort of tangible impact for people who are using the project, then that's the most important thing I would say. So if you're making tutorials and things that are actually helping people to kind of onboard quicker, then that's excellent, because that's kind of multiplying your impact on whatever you're doing if you're able to help other people. So
could I ask a question here?
Of course.
Yeah. So I was wondering, if someone's thinking about doing something and they came and asked you, hey, what if I did X? Would you be able to give them a good idea of whether how it fit into these different factors?
I think so. I think so.
Do people do that?
Anybody can just DM me at any time and just say, can I do some particular activity type and how does this fit into the project or what we need at the moment? I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's, from my point of view, that's absolutely fine.
Do you find that people do that?
Not so much. I don't think people are really asking me so much. No, I don't think so. I think that would be useful if people are thinking, can I do marketing kind of stuff? I mean, we get those kind of questions. There are kind of things that are talents that people have that are not obviously being kind of exploited in any formal way at the moment. Obviously, marketing maybe now with the new working groups, that's going to be something that's kind of more formalized. But if there isn't something that's so formalized on the chain at the moment, that doesn't really matter. I mean, we can kind of, the whole point is that this is a kind of community run project, and if we want to kind of bootstrap the I guess the structure for whatever kind of contribution you want to do, that's absolutely fine. So get in touch with me, or I mean, obviously the best way to do that kind of thing is making proposals, and as I say, on chain. So rather than asking me, do it in that way if you can. But yeah, I think that's a brilliant idea. If anybody has anything they want to suggest, just go ahead with that. Okay, so now I have some just examples of things I think are really strong types of contribution that I'm going to just show you quickly. So one thing I've seen recently is obviously the council term summary videos. Now I think that's obviously kind of mediated by KPI. When you look at this in the list of like characteristics I've got here, if you go effort invested, well, obviously look, they've designed the covers, and they've kind of, if you look at the videos here, they have really high production values actually. It's quite impressive. When people are reporting this, they send me a link to the video. It's very obvious here in this particular case what's going on. Technical complexity. I mean, it's not like developing things, but if you're able to edit a video, that's pretty useful from my point of view. So it's kind of showing your kind of hard skills, I guess you say.
I just interrupting rudely.
Sorry.
Am I supposed to see something different on the screen now? Because I saw a bunch of slides.
That hasn't changed? Okay. You are supposed to see something different. So let me just.
I see.
You might have to go out of full screen mode.
Yeah, I think that's what we have to do. Can someone? I don't know if I can actually do that myself. Does anybody know how to get me out of there? One second.
Screen mode. I think.
Escape. I'm really struggling here. Stop share. I can't see my mouse actually. I don't know what's going on there. Let's see. Nope, I don't want to test my microphone. Wow, I'm really stuck here. Can you kick me or something, and I can maybe read your? I'm not sure how we're going to sort this out.
Is this a keynote? Can you just click?
Oh, there we go. There we go.
Oh, there we go.
Exit. Okay, I'm going to start re-sharing again. Sorry about that. Okay. Can you see that now?
Yes,
I can see that.
Is that right?
Yep.
So what I was just saying is that the council term videos are really good, and if you compare them to my list of things here, the effort, the creativity, the evidence people are providing, the talent that you're doing with the video editing, the usefulness, the fact that it's obviously on chain. If you're doing that, it's related very strongly to what's actually going on the project at the time. I mean, it fills in all of those, I think, basically. So it's this kind of thing. If you just think of anything you're doing and you kind of compare it to this list of things, if you're getting a couple of those, then it's brilliant. Proposal creation. I mean, this is another thing that's really good. I mean, there's lots of people more and more doing things that are, so this is from
Does that count just creating proposals?
I mean, this kind of thing, not just any old proposal. I want to be clear. It's not just if you're doing it needs to be some thought out proposal that's going to kind of improve the state of the platform. Yeah, but in many cases, this is if you're really thinking about something that you want to do, which would make a difference to anything really, to make anything more efficient or work in a better way from your point of view, then for example, this one to do with extending the responsibilities to the KPI manager. So Vasilenko had this role, and then I think she had some thoughts about how that could be improved, the structure of that, and then she's making a proposal on it. So I think that's useful if you've got your experience from the testnet and then using that. So yeah, obviously it's just an example basically. So if you're on the council, if you're being as responsive as possible, that's pretty useful. So obviously, if you think of the council, it's a bit like kind of parliament sort of thing. So if you think of the purpose of what you're doing with the proposals, you're kind of taking them through like kind of bills, and if you talk about them as much as possible and try and evaluate them, if they're just all of the different aspects of them and how they're going to affect the state of the testnet at the moment, then that's really useful, because that's basically what a council member is. And if you're doing that now on the testnet, then that's showing that you'd be a really effective council member on the mainnet as well, where there's less interference from JS Genesis, and you've got to be deciding to a certain extent, your own priorities. So yeah, that's council responsiveness, I would say. Then you have obviously lots of tools that people are working on. This is Joystream stats, which I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with. And obviously, if you see these things, there's more than one person working on this. I mean, there's obviously L1 Dev is the person responsible for kind of making this, but you have plenty of people who are contributing to this. And I'm sure if you asked him if you could help with the development of this, he'd say, sure, if you've got any development talents. It's not that you have to build your own tools. There's plenty of space. I mean, now formally in the operations working group, but just anything useful you can do. I mean, you can do it. You just need to kind of be as proactive as possible in asking people how you can be useful, basically. And even kind of, this is a tool that Ururu built, which is just showing the points. I mean, there was not a very efficient way of showing the points that you get from founding member scores per period. Obviously, that's a bit meta, because that's not really helping us it's not really helping the project in a kind of pure way. But if you're kind of applying your development talents to anything that is a kind of issue for the project, then that's useful. So this guy Ruru has become a founding member. That's partially because of his kind of thoughtfulness in creating this tool, which actually it's actually helping me to grade the summaries a bit easier, because I can kind of say what people have received every period and kind of calibrate my scoring based on that to a certain degree. So obviously this is Zapplooker as well. This is a really strong tool. So yeah, I mean, as I said at the start, technical skills are excellent, but that's far from being the most important thing that you can offer. Yeah, it's obvious really that there's many ways you can contribute. So role activity is obviously one of the number one ways you can do it. I think everyone who's got a role, or especially leads in a role, are doing a good job, because they haven't been fired effectively by the testnet. And the council is pretty good at actually holding people to account for that sort of thing. But if you can write me a report like 0x2bc has done here, who's been the storage lead for absolutely ages, and he or she, actually, I'm not actually sure, has been submitting summaries for absolutely ages. And if you can just see this here, they're just so detailed compared to some of the other ones I get. And he tells me about the OKRs, and like he tells me exactly what he's done, and that literally gives me the pull requests and the reports he's written. And it's so easy to evaluate this and say you're doing a really good job, even though, I mean, it is obvious anyway if he's not getting kind of fired. But it's, if you can write good reports and just do what the platform is basically telling you to do in this role, you can be really heavily rewarded. So he's very recently become a founding member. I'm going to stop soon with this, sorry. Then you can just ask questions. But obviously bounties will guide you in a way that will allow you to become a founding member. I mean, if you do a bounty and you can show by doing that bounty that you've got some skill in some area, like Illich has made some really good tutorials here for translations and just GitHub more generally, then it's amazing actually. If you can follow the example and then kind of surpass the expectations of that bounty, then you're going to get more points than you might imagine based on the kind of formal reward that bounty is offering. So if you are performing at a high level, then you're going to do really well, and I'm just going to give you loads of points. Basically, I hope it's directly correlating to your effort and your kind of impact on the testnet is how many points you should be getting. That's how you should kind of think about it. And if you're showing yourself to be a good candidate, I would guess, for being a mainnet participant. So I think now I'm moving on to, oh no, I'm not. So there's one last thing, which is just kind of community stuff. I mean, obviously you don't actually even need to be, I have said there's an emphasis on chain stuff, but I mean, you obviously, if you're giving support in the community, you need to have some knowledge of what's going on the testnet, but it doesn't even need to mean that you actually have to be in a role if you're giving support. And I mean, Andy has done this really well. It's fast letting go. There's lots of new people actually coming in as well and trying to do that, which I think is really good. So this is just obviously a view of the Russian Telegram, and Andy has just done 1,500 messages in the last month. So I mean, it's pretty impressive that he's kind of staying that on the ball and trying to give support to people. So that's impressive as well. So right now, moving on to slightly lower impact stuff. I think some people struggle to understand what we're looking for, and they think it's just kind of testing the platform. So like editing your membership image or something like there's an example there might be, but I think that's just completely misunderstand what we're looking for. We're not really looking for testers so much, or people who are doing tweets and connecting to like that kind of thing. It's very different from these other ambassador programs that you might find where there's not a DAO behind it. There's not so much of it. There's not so much of an end goal of training up this community. Whereas with us, you're literally, if you're becoming a founding member, you're literally getting tokens on the testnet and you're literally kind of running it, because JS Genesis may not be around in at all, or in the same way that it is now. So it's really thinking about doing higher impact stuff. And then there's this one person that said, I try to help newcomers and just be really kind of, if you're doing, that's fine, but if you're not telling me, if you're not providing a link or trying to give me some good evidence, then it's really difficult. So if you just sent me a link to this, for example, this statistics thing that shows me sending lots of messages in the Telegram, that's probably enough. I'm not going to be too much of a detective and kind of look at every single message you're sending. I don't need that. But at the same time, if you just say, oh, I'm helping, sort of thing, it's really difficult for me to evaluate that. Finally, so if you're in a role, I want to, if you're a content curator, for example, or you're on the council, then it's really good if you send me some of the proposals you've discussed. If you're a curator, then like some video that came up, some problem with that and what you did about it would be really helpful, rather than just saying, oh, I am content curator or I'm a council member. Because that's challenging for me to know what exactly that means or how many points I should give you, because are you a good council member, or are you a kind of okay council member? So that's what I'm trying to work out. And there are plenty of really good people who do, it's weird, there are plenty of people who do really high quality stuff on the testnet, but then in the report, which is really important because that's the number of points you're getting and that's the proportional to your stake on the mainnet, you're not writing very much. So if you can give me a really good idea of what you're doing, then that's good. Obviously, if I am aware of you, then I'll kind of look into the proposals and that kind of thing and be a bit more detailed on it anyway, kind of to give you the benefit of the doubt. But certainly for newer people, kind of shout to me that you're kind of someone that's really going to be making a difference. So just try and, I mean, it's not that there's a necessarily to be long reports, but if you can give me good quality evidence, that's super useful. Right, this is the last slide. I think the same sort of thing. So oh no, it's not really. So this is about video upload. So this is back to the first thing I was saying, that if it's like nodes and if it's everybody can do it, then that's another sort of thing that I wouldn't really reward. And if you look at this particular thing, they've sent me a link to the video uploading, but what is my incentive for looking at that? I don't know what the video is. If it's some kind of review of Joystream, or you're telling people how to participate on the testnet or how to be the best type of content curator that is, then that's obviously valuable. But if you're just saying I upload a video and you're just sending me the link and I have to literally look at the video to find out what it is, then that's less helpful. So if you can give me as much information as possible in those reports, that's really helpful. Okay, so that's the end of my slides. I guess I'll pass back to Vallejo. I don't know if there are any official, I think there have been some official questions sent in, but I'm not sure where to go from there. So I'll stop sharing now.
Awesome. No, I think that's brilliant. I mean, what comes to mind for me is how would people come to know what they should be doing, what is valuable, what isn't valuable. I mean, there's this call, there's this event right now. But I do think we have some work to do to help people understand this better upfront. I mean, you're even saying, as far as I understood it, people who are not founding members, who are doing a lot of good work, are submitting some kind of a report which is not accounting for what they're doing. So
I mean, it's accounting for what they're doing, but almost in the most minimalist way possible, where they just say, I'm a content curator or something. And that's fine. And I really appreciate they're a content creator, but if you're content curator, sorry, but if you're explaining to me how you're the best content curator, then that's a lot better, because then I can say, this is someone that needs to be with us on mainnet, rather than just someone who's kind of doing what they're being told to.
So would it be a good idea then for us? I mean, one of the things we are working on doing, and that's one of the big tasks for Robert, is helping us have a graceful way to take people from not knowing anything to knowing how to participate and where to join. But maybe we should have like literally a video or something like what you just gave, which explains this, maybe a little bit more succinctly than what you just did. No offense, it was a great presentation, but I'm just saying, if people are actually failing even at that last step of providing a summary that you can deal with at scale, then maybe we should try to fix that.
I completely agree.
Like kind of a lost opportunity if we've gotten someone that far. They're doing the work. They're doing everything, and then the summary just sort of falls flat.
Yeah, I have to agree.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, so we had some questions submitted. I could go through those. If there are any other questions about what Ben just went through or anything else, feel free to jump in. Otherwise, I will proceed. All right. Okay. All right. Should I let me share the questions here. Share. So I don't actually remember who prepared these, but thank you very much. Was it Egrex? Perhaps. I don't know. Let's see here. Community call. So do you see those?
Yes.
Cool. Okay. So these were submitted just before the call started. So I'll just go through them, and then I don't see everyone. So if anyone wants to say anything, just jump in. So the first question is, will there be a lock vesting of tokens that founding members will receive? Isn't Genesis, by which they mean JS Genesis, I think, afraid of giving away such a large amount of tokens, 15% to 200 people? This is a huge amount of tokens. Is JS Genesis planning to make more founding members than 200 people? Okay, so a few different things there. So locking, yes, there will definitely be some kind of a vesting schedule. In fact, I guess I can pretty much say, I should probably make sure I don't quote the wrong numbers here, but there will be a vesting schedule for everyone in the founding member program, of course, people in the JS Genesis team and so on, and it will be the same schedule, which means there's a little bit of liquidity at the mainnet launch, and then it's sort of linearly unlocked over a 2-year period. I'm pretty sure that's correct. But the details of that we'll publish later. So there is locking. Now, keep in mind that way more than 50%, 15% is going to be given away to community people, broadly speaking, right? 15% is for the current founding member program. Then we have creators that we're going to allocate stuff to. We're probably going to end up, although this hasn't been decided, giving to founding members even after mainnet launch, possibly. And that's going to be probably coming out of a separate pool. So there is quite a lot of tokens to go around. So it is important for us that we find a sufficient number of sort of quality people to take those tokens and to run with those and operate the mainnet. So I guess this sort of exacerbates the concern the person has that there's a huge amount of tokens. There's an even huger amount of tokens than you realize. Are we planning to have more than 200 people in the founding member program? We would like to. This just depends, right? I mean, if we don't find the right people, maybe we stop at 60, and like in some unfortunate scenario, we would. Just diluting it and giving it to people we don't think could provide value doesn't make sense. Then we'd have to find some other approach. So the 200 came up just the last community call. as the number we sort of had worked out when we thought about the different roles that you have to fill, the council size, the working groups, and that number sort of popped up with some redundancy in there. Yeah, so hopefully that was useful in, so yes, there will be locking. We are not afraid of giving away a large amount of tokens to people. It would be more than 15%. It may be different than 200 people. I don't know. I wasn't counting there, but yeah. So, and anyone have any thoughts? Ben, Robert? All right. The next question is the details of the latest funding round.
I think there was actually a question from the chat, which is, can vested tokens be used within the platform?
Yes, they can vested tokens. So can, I think questions are like, can locked tokens be used in the platform? And the question and answer is to that is yes. So if you have X quantity of tokens locked because of this, for example, let's say you're a founding member, then you can still use them to vote on the council, for example. So you still have impact on governance. You can't use it for a whole bunch of other things, but you can use them, for example, for that. I think you can also use them for participating in working groups. You should check the handbook for this, which details that in more detail. It isn't actually public, but if you go and check it out here, there is a whole thing on staking we've written, which sort of explains what kind of locking you can do with the different kinds of subsystems we have. So, but yes, for the basic governance stuff, you will be able to use your locked tokens. And when they're unlocked, that's when you can actually transfer them and so on. All right. Details of the latest funding round. So, I mean, this hasn't been announced. We just haven't, but we could do it now. Right. So, I mean, the only reason we haven't announced it is because we would like to use the opportunity, because when you do announcement, you get a little bit more attention to people who maybe don't know who you are, and you want to time that with, let's say we're releasing a network or something where we'd want to use that attention to put people through some new experience or something. However, I don't suppose it would do much harm if we did just sort of leak some information right here, right? We shouldn't be too presumptuous to think the whole world's listening. So in this funding round, before I should say, JS Genesis has raised $6 million, and we did another funding round where we did raise an additional $6 million. So right now we've raised something like somewhere between 12 or $13 million. So I think with that, JS Genesis is actually probably one of the most well-funded Polkadot projects out there. I think probably like top 10, top 8 or something. So we've got a decent chunk of resources. We have a solid number of partners on board. It's about somewhere between 30 and 40 different funds. I could share a list, but I'm not sure how useful it would be. So I'll just say there are a lot of funds involved in that round. So I'd appreciate it if everyone just kept this knowledge to themselves. We'll make an official announcement using press and all that kind of stuff. But that's sort of the status of that funding round. So that gives us a lot of energy and fuel for all of next year and going live on mainnet and that sort of stuff. So that's the funding round. Are we collaborating with Moonriver/Moonbeam Network? No, I think someone already asked this recently. So Moonbeam/Moonriver is like an EVM compatible parachain, which there's no direct synergy or anything between what we're doing and what they're doing. So there isn't any obvious way to collaborate with them that makes sense to me. If someone has an idea, I'd be happy to hear. But nothing is planned. Since people are asking, I do wonder what is prompting that. Is there something I'm missing, or have someone said something? I don't know. But nothing planned. So there's that. Activity prioritization. In current periods, what kind of activities are the most value for the project? And then predictions for future periods. I think this is basically what you just went through, which is
I'd say so. I mean, yeah. I guess maybe it's asking. I don't think there's much change between over the periods what we're actually looking for. It's always the same kind of stuff, just high quality stuff, like I was trying to illustrate there. Sorry, I've forgotten the microphone.
No,
Just
it's decent. Yeah.
Okay, just high quality stuff basically. So yeah, I wouldn't add very much. It's not really I mean, maybe in the future, more communication type stuff, marketing, we're kind of going more in that direction. So if the community can help us with that, then that's useful. And obviously now that Robert's here, that's definitely a priority. But no, I don't think there's much change over time. Yeah, it's very difficult to kind of give some kind of activity type in particular. I mean, they're all valuable, so it's just kind of almost the intensity that you're doing it with, the effort you're putting in.
I can add something here that it might not necessarily give you founding members points, but just as somebody who just joined and who's focused on sort of breathing some life back into the Discord and all that, just being active in the Discord. And what I mean by that is come in in the morning, say good morning. If somebody says it, say something back, ask a question, just open-ended question, just sort of try to get some type of activity in there, because it's really important for the project. I think when outsiders find out about us, that they see that there's stuff happening. This is something that we're working on, sort of overarching in a way that that you're gonna see it on the Twitter in the near future. You're gonna see it in the Discord and whatnot. So I would just love to see more activity, more engagement. By all means, you'll see it if you scroll back today through the history. You'll see I sort of asked a question just to kind of get people going. By all means, I would love it if other people sort of started to engage in that way, and we'll get a really nice energy going in the Discord.
For sure, definitely. So great. So that's number 4. Why is the project not being promoted by Genesis? I love that everyone just calls it Genesis. How will Genesis react if the community starts promoting the project in its own? Will such activities be encouraged? So we sort of touched on this. Well, why it hasn't been promoted? I suppose it just hasn't been a priority. I guess that's really the honest answer. We've really been prioritizing product, technology, hiring, that kind of stuff, like the core stuff. And we're going to be more focused on the community now that a lot of that has become more mature, but also because we're getting closer to mainnet, so it's even more important than it was before. So why? Because it wasn't a priority fundamentally. How will we react if the community starts promoting the project? What do you think about that, Robert? Is there some kind of an issue there if people are doing their own promoting and then we're doing our JS Genesis based promoting, or does that work just fine?
No, look, I don't think at the end of the day we're gonna be able to tell people what to do and what not to do. All I would tell people is maybe, and I'm not saying people would do this, but you'll see different types of ways that people promote a project or a token and whatnot. And one route to go is like, oh my God, this project is gonna 1000x, buy it now, whatever, right? Super hypey. And there's a lot of that in the crypto space. And the other, with a bit more finesse and honesty, I guess, would be to have a real think about, and I would actually love to hear people's ideas around this, is where's, talking about where do you see this project going? Sort of generally just share, sort of out in the open, talking about what you see the future being for Joystream. Like I'll give you an example. Just recently, I had this. It's not an idea. It's rather a realization that, hey, what if because with Joystream, at least as far as I understand it, I'm still relatively new, right? Is that somebody could build the next TikTok, somebody could build the next YouTube, somebody could build the next Snapchat, but they're all built on the same tech, and you could have all of your followers on those 3 new platforms. You could have all the same followers. So if you switch to one platform, you could bring your entire following with you. Like that's a really cool benefit. So that's what I mean. It's like, by all means, have a think about what you see the potential of this project being and talk about that. And I think that way it's sort of attracting, a higher caliber person, which I think is what we want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there could be totally different views and perspectives that we just don't see. That
Yeah,
people,
absolutely.
So people can help us, communicate that as effectively as possible. So I guess the answer is we will be doing it more than we did before. And it would be great if people want to contribute and share their ideas and do it on their own. And I guess just do it along the lines of like the values of the project and what we're trying to do is the main point. Otherwise, it sort of doesn't really work. Badejo mentioned that without gateway providers, the DAO will not be able to make money on the main network. Why did you decide to give up this role? So the main reason, so I should mention, there's two components to this role. There's like a node called the gateway node, which basically the app called Atlas has to talk to. And then there's like a part of the blockchain, which sort of is where this node hooks into the rest of the network and pays for the people who are accessing content and so on. And so the blockchain side, that's pretty much done already. That was done quite a while ago. But building this full gateway node is something that we had to think hard about it, and really it became clear that the other infrastructure was more essential. As long as we have shown a way for this to work where it sort of economically makes sense, I think it's feasible for the community and of course people in JS Genesis to be part of executing on that after launch. And there's so many networks and DAOs where really it's still super valuable projects. It's still possible for them to finance all the different costs in the project, even though they don't have turned on any value capture. So Uniswap is a great example. I don't believe they have any fee capture yet, but the Uniswap system is still very valuable and they could still pay for all the things that the system needs. So I think it doesn't harm the system that it's not live yet, because honestly, the distance from launching to having it live would be very short. So it wouldn't be this perpetual thing in the future that would be very sort of elusive and unclear. There's a very clear idea there for how it can be done. We see that it's very clear that these systems can still be growing and able to track resources, even though they don't have monetization turned off. So that's why we decided to give up on the role, as it says. It's more about not doing it before mainnet launches. And it's not actually totally true, because there is value capture still. So for example, there's a like NFT marketplace type of feature. So think it was like OpenSea embedded within YouTube, and obviously OpenSea has transactional revenue, quite a lot actually. So there's still these other parts, other ways of generating value, capturing value in the token that would be still part of the live launch. But it wouldn't be this sort of mass audience monetization type of feature.
Can I ask something around this?
Yeah.
So I'm just curious around the thoughts of creating, an on-chain advertising network. If you look to YouTube, for example, or Alphabet, which is the holding company of, YouTube and Google and whatnot, 80-90% of their revenue comes from advertising on YouTube, Google Search, and Google Display Network. Mm-hmm. And so it's obviously, a massive part of monetizing, social. And I'm just curious, what are the thoughts up until this point around having an on-chain, advertising network built into the whole project?
Yes, so we actually used to think that we would do that, but gateways are actually not that. So gateways are not per se like the YouTube ad system or something on the blockchain. Mm-hmm. What that system is it's just a way to allow for front ends basically to pay for access on behalf of their users, and then they can monetize the users however they want. So they can use ads, or they can use subscription payments, or whatever they want. So you can still actually monetize end users who don't have crypto in any number of different ways, ads being just one of them with the gateway system. So I guess hopefully, that clears it up. So the gateway system is not equivalent to an on-chain ad system, but it does unlock the ability to monetize through ads for the system overall, basically.
Gotcha. I guess my question is, like, why wouldn't we build an ad network, I guess, ourselves as well? Because as the question kind of alludes to, you are sort of relying on some other competent team, right, to come and create a gateway that's going to make or break the project in a way. So why leave that up to somebody else as opposed to taking it upon ourselves to build that, if that makes sense?
Well, keep in mind that party, that's a good question, but that party is not necessarily needing to itself build a ad system per se. Like they could use one of a million different ad exchanges or whatever kind of thing they want. But we would be reliant on someone wanting to build experiences on top of Joystream. So this is like the same bet as like Ethereum. Like Ethereum is a bet that someone will build the apps or DeFi or NFTs or all the things that eventually get built, which didn't get built like year one or even year two. But eventually they did get built. So there's definitely a bet that we will attract for the full vision to unfold and for us to unlock the maximum amount of value. We are making a bet there. Now, I think we are facilitating it to a very substantial degree by basically building a very, very polished version of the first product. So really to show up, you just need to fork something and you're like, then you're started already. So I don't think it's necessarily that huge barrier to entry to get started. And I think the name of the game for someone new getting started in that role won't be to monetize. It will be to build a consumer base on top of a product and reaching them and that kind of stuff. And then eventually they would want to monetize potentially in some way or the other.
I think the video NFTs thing is a big hit. Is that well, I guess, on OpenSea you can do videos as well, but it's slightly different. I mean, is that being done anywhere else?
There are like marketplaces that focus only on video NFTs. So they are a little bit of, I'm not sure if I guess they are marketplaces. I think what's unique about us though is that we're really trying, it's a big bet, but what we're really trying to do is we're trying to embed NFTs in like the main experience of consuming the content, right? That's a big difference. So no one will go to OpenSea to like, I want to watch some cat videos or something.
Yes.
So that's the big differentiator in terms of how creators get to leverage these digital asset tools. It's that they're 100%. There in the primary experience. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see somebody watching a video, and they love the video, and then there's sort of emotional investments. Like I'd love to own this as an NFT. It's very different than just going to a marketplace and
Cool, great. So let's go to the next one. I'll mention. Oh, I did that already. When developing Atlas roadmap, is any of the existing video platforms taken into account? Who are we targeting? Svetlana has done some good research recently on the topic of decentralized video platforms. I mean, I would say that there aren't, first of all, that many decentralized video platforms. I could think of a few off the top of my head, which are like decentralized-ish. I'd say the main difference is that, there are a few different ones. So you could think of things like Theta Network, for example, which is mostly focused on live streaming, for example. Or you could think of something like Library, LBRY, which is sort of focused on, actually, Kate made this research, just want some justice. Okay. Sorry, so Kate did this. I would love to see this, by the way. I have not seen this. So, and then you have Library, which is more like YouTube, but it is literally like YouTube, and then it's quite similar in all respects. So we're different to them in different ways. I would say none of them really focus on having a system which is owned and operated by the users, where it doesn't depend on a single company. And we've seen, I won't go into details, but some of those companies have ran into trouble. And I think that doesn't fare well for the system overall when it's so reliant on that single company being successful and not having any kind of operational or legal issues. So that's a big differentiator, I would say, to all those systems. I would say also some of them focus more on having like decentralized infrastructure. So Theta Network is like very focused on having peer-to-peer kind of distribution of data. I guess Library used to be focused on that, but at this point, it's just a company that runs all the infrastructure. Even though technically it's possible for anyone to do so, but the incentives are not aligned for it to actually be feasible. So I would say that we're like we're not focused on having peer-to-peer infrastructure. We're focused on having infrastructure that the DAO owns and operates. That's the main difference between those kinds of projects. Sometimes people compare us to live peer also, which is kind of a little bit confused because live peer is like a more of a middleware protocol which focuses on transcoding. So it's also quite different. I've promised forever to do a video run through of all of this. I will do that, but I haven't so far. So let me do that. And I would also love to see this research from Kate. Cool.
I'll add some stuff here if I can.
Oh, yeah.
Also would love to see the research. And just quickly, I've thought about this question, as the marketer, I'm trying to think of actually a lot from Atlas point of view, sort of who are we likely to get on, even if Atlas may not be the long-term way that people use Joystream per se. Who are we targeting, right? And so I would love to hear anybody's ideas. Feel free to throw them in the chat or on Discord. Where would be a good starting point to sort of reach out and get people on board? For me, the most obvious one is sort of who is most receptive to this idea. Well, it's going to be crypto YouTubers, in my opinion, right? Because when you come in the way that we do, we are not a first mover, right? There's a very established video platform, YouTube primarily online. So what we're going to have to do to get some sort of momentum on that front is really what this question alludes to, is sort of find a target audience, probably a sort of a niche audience that is going to resonate with this, jump on board, start using it, and then it can grow from there. So it's going to be very important. It's a great question. It's going to be very important for us to find some group that is very receptive to this. And yeah, just as a starting point, again, would love to hear your guys' ideas, but I think sort of crypto YouTubers would make a very sort of natural, I can see them making a video on YouTube and then they'll wrap up the video saying, hey, if you want to buy this video as an NFT, there's a link in the description. They go over to Atlas and so on and so forth. But yeah, by all means, any ideas you guys have as far as sort of target audiences, feel free to shoot them my way or in the Discord or in the chat here.
Yeah, I think that's definitely right. I mean, extending a little bit on that, I would say any kind of creator who has maybe a small but very passionate audience who would not be served well by ad systems, but where people really care about the message, that's where NFTs and social tokens make sense, because you don't need to have the world buy into your vision. You just need to have like 50 people who really love the fact that you make knitting videos or whatever you do. And I think there are a lot of those creators, and those are probably the people that we want to find and connect with first. Okay, so I want to invest fiat money in the project. Is it possible? ROI? I'm not sure if that's the question. That's the question.
12%.
What?
I said 12%.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So I would say that right now that isn't possible, and it may never be possible. We would prefer if we could get most people in the door through the founding member program. Now, what I have seen is that some projects actually get a lot of visibility and uplift from doing like maybe a smaller public fundraise, something like that. Maybe they do it on CoinList. I've seen that be quite successful for projects. So that's something that we would be willing to entertain as a strategic initiative. Not per se to actually fund the project, because the project is well funded already. So there isn't really a way to do it right now, but I wouldn't 100% rule it out. But it isn't an emphasis, I'll be honest about that. That isn't a focus right now. I would like to talk to this person, actually. Why? I would just love if they would just get involved in the founding member program. I think they would find that is probably a much more cost-effective way of getting on board, so to speak. Yeah. So whoever you are, DM me or DM Robert, or Ben for that matter. All right. Last question: is the migration of data from Sumer network planned to the following network, Giza and Olympia? Yes, but not all of it. I think, Ben, you've been involved in figuring out exactly what part of the content directory gets exported over. Not everything, but certainly all of the obviously reasonable stuff. Is that fair way to say it, Ben?
I would say, so I have a list of channels which we're migrating. if any of you guys have I think your channels will probably be included in that unless they're empty or they have one video with a dodgy thumbnail and a title that doesn't make sense or anything else that's a bit dodgy, then I probably wouldn't be included in that migration. I've gone more onto the obvious kind of community channels and obviously our own channels and the ones, the seed channels that we created as well, the ones that kind of the stock.
Will we give people an option to like, here's the channels? I mean, people keep making channels every day, so it's a little bit of a moving target. But if we could at least say, here are the channels, and then if someone doesn't find their thing, they could raise their hand.
Why don't
you think that's worth doing?
I think, why don't I do that after the meeting is finished, so I can literally paste the current list of channel IDs.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Or I don't know if is that bad? Maybe that's not a good idea.
Well, I guess the only issue with that is maybe, is maybe that people will make new channels before the launch, but maybe.
Yeah. Okay. I guess if anybody's really concerned that that they really want their channel to be migrated, they think there's really valuable stuff on there. Just DM me basically, and then I'll ensure that that's included in the migration. If you don't do that, then I really can't guarantee that your channel will be migrated, because there may be some reason that I've chosen not to. A variety of reasons, which I think are in a GitHub issue somewhere, to do with metadata being wrong or licenses being like attribution not being quite exactly correct, that kind of thing. So there's a number of reasons I've chosen that might affect that. So if you're really, really keen on getting your channel migrated, then please do send me a direct message. But any of the big community ones, like the council term video channels, then obviously they will be migrated, like all of the big community ones. But if you're a smaller one, if you're just doing like bounties or whatever, but you think those videos are really good, like bounty 18 and 24, I think would be the ones that with original and Creative Commons stuff. If you think that's particularly important, you want to migrate that, then just write to me, definitely, and I will ensure that that's included.
Excellent. Yeah. So as far as, I mean, for Giza, I think everything else is preserved. So memberships and proposals, and there's no change for any of that. I think Buisto was asking about that. Also the forum. But for Olympia, I think I almost want to say that like a majority of stuff will be reset, because Olympia is a totally new system. So it's a totally new kind of proposal system, totally new everything forum. And it will just be very difficult to try to mix in with the new Pioneer 2 and everything working in one experience is going to be very unlikely. I know that isn't great, but that is the nature of testnets, and it would just cost so much engineering time trying to fit it in. That being said, it remains to be seen. But yeah, Olympia will be at the point where we possibly will lose quite a bit, but not on the content side, obviously, because that doesn't really change there. Yes, so that's all the questions we had. I wish, let me stop sharing. I wish people would be a little bit more comfortable. Good number of people here jumping in, but it's good to see you all anyway. I don't have any other questions or topics.
Anybody got questions? Feel free to jump on. You can unmute yourself, or if you want to ask the question in the chat, that's no problem at all. And we're happy to answer anything you got.
If you want to write it in Russian as well, and I'm sure it'll be translated, or any language, actually, I can quickly type into Google Translate, obviously.
Yeah. I think we're going to have to hire an official Russian teacher to the JS Genesis team fairly soon to just do an hour of Russian in the morning every day.
Я немножко говорю по-русски.
Whoa.
What does that mean?
I don't know.
Make sure.
That's
I didn't curse it. I didn't curse at everyone. What did you just say? Hey.
Hello.
Hello. Sorry, I want to ask Robert. I was not here from the beginning of this call. That's why I'm not sure if you answer this question, but how are you going to improve founding member program? Can you repeat it for me if you already answered?
Sure. So basically, I did a bit of an analysis of what's happening, and the fundamental issue really, and I think everybody can sort of attest to this, is it's kind of a complex project, right? So aside from the Joystream and the platform and the governance and creator side, then there's also this layer of the founding members program. And what is it? Why should I get involved? How do I actually earn points? what activity, you know, it's great that Ben sort of, well, I guess you missed it, but Ben opened this call sort of talking about what have been, or what has been historically sort of good contributions and what has been sort of less effective contributions. So what we're really doing is organizing the onboarding, for lack of a better term, so that when people show up to this project, there's a very easy to navigate process for learning more about what Joystream is. And then also there's going to be, so that will be almost like a video course where somebody can come in, they won't even have to know what a DAO is, and they can sort of go through this experience, and they can come out on the other side knowing what the project is, where it can go. And then depending on if they're a developer or a graphic designer or a marketer or a community person, they can kind of have an idea of where they might fit into it all, which is a big difference, right? Like we're all transitioning from this, you know, old way of working where you get a job somewhere, somebody tells you what to do, and in DAOs, people are sort of coming in, and there's this initiative needed where people need to figure out on their own how they can contribute. And so we're all kind of trying to figure out how to best, you know, sort that out. And so there's going to be sort of a static, for lack of a better term, online course where people can get the information, you know, so that they understand what's happening. And then there's also you guys might not see it, but on the Discord side, I'm personally DMing every person who's joining the Discord now, and it's been very fruitful in sort of figuring out, you know, what type of people are coming. Again, what type of a user are they? Are they a developer or designer, and so on and so forth? I think it's very helpful to have somebody to lean on when you come into, because it's so overwhelming, right? Have somebody to lean on when you come into the project, to ask questions or to guide you to a certain video to watch or something like that. And so basically those two things we're going to do so that somebody can come in, they won't have to know anything, and we're going to, as best as we can, try to integrate them so that they can be very clear on, you know, what do I need to do? First of all, why should I get involved? And then second, what do I need to do to become sort of a high value contributing member who gets the old founding member status without having to bribe Ben and, you know, any sort of illegal activities. But hopefully that answers your questions.
Yeah,
your
thank
question.
you. I thought about making Notion page. Do you know what is it? I think you know.
Yeah, I know.
Yes, as for me, it's very useful because when I participated in different ambassador programs, they always had some page on Notion, and it's very cool. I thought that every member who has some role, for example, experienced council member or content curator or somebody else, every person can make some guide or something like that, and we can unite it together and do something cool to show people how to work here.
Yeah, so you mean sort of as a resource to go and sort of get familiar with the project and learn about things?
It's not research. I mean, guide from, for example, Laura is content curator lead. She is on this role for a long time, and she knows how to work on it. And she can make some guide, or maybe she did it already. I'm not sure. And for example, she can make some guide, and we can use it. And people will understand what is it to be a lead of content curator. And
Right.
yes, and some content creator experience it can make the same, and storage providers and so on. I think that you understand.
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't know if we necessarily are going to end up using Notion, but I mean, exactly what you are talking about. This is a large part of sort of the whole experience that I'm explaining. So I'm actually mapping out that whole journey now of from them coming in to finding out anything from what is a DAO if they're complete beginner to some of the specifics, like, you know, being a storage lead and all that. So I'll definitely be, you know, tapping some of you guys for assistance on providing content around those. So there will be more info on that.
Oh,
absolutely.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, I'm done.
Robert.
Go for it.
So we have Buisto who has his hands up. I think that means he has to ask a question, but let me just follow up with the lady. It would be great if you could share some links that you've found onto those Notion pages, so we have some examples to go by that you think are good, because that can help us. Okay, good. So actually, how do I ask to unmute? Oh, there we go.
Yeah, I can unmute myself.
Yeah, we got you.
Okay, you can guys hear me, right?
Yes.
Yeah, actually Svetlana mentioned what already was proposed, I think, quite a while ago, because I found it personally very cumbersome as a process to contribute to community repo via GitHub and not via the tool like Notion, because Notion requires much less of technical expertise from an average user. And you can be just a regular guy not knowing anything technical and still be able to contribute to a shared space where the knowledge is consolidated and shared between all the peers. Whereas what we currently have is just a way that you technically need to clone the repo or fork the repo, do the branching, do the command line stuff. I mean, for some people, it's like PhD level science, right? Not for me, because I'm a technical, but for majority of the community, is like a very big barrier to enter this process of sharing the knowledge. And so that's one comment. And secondly, I want to thank Bedejo for the honesty. I heard very lot of answers, which was like a very big surprise to me to have like this level of honesty on the session for the community, even before something is officially announced. Like it's really an honor. Thank you.
Great. More questions, guys. Keep them coming. This is your chance. By the way, Bedejo, are we doing a weekly or bi-weekly? What did we decide on? I know you scheduled a weekly one, but I think you said a bi-weekly.
Bi-weekly. I don't know if you. My son is screaming in the background. I'm sure if you guys can hear, so I hope that's not coming through. But bi-weekly is the current cadence. I am actually a little bit curious. And this reveals how little I know of all the different processes that are going on in the community. But what are the typical types of things that require someone to do a pull request into the community? Is it the help desk or the community repo? What are the typical things?
It's usually community repo. I described all the typical personas who use the repo in a certain way. I can link the forum post and I am you after the meeting.
Do you want to just take over, Robert?
Yeah, sure. I know the drill. I don't know if you have Crisp. Crisp is pretty good. It's a software that does noise canceling, and check it out. KRISP.ai. Based on my experience, my kids have been screaming in the background and nobody heard anything. So I suppose it's pretty effective. But yeah, guys, feel free. Again, this is your chance to sort of ask questions and get any sort of information you want out of us to find out more about what's going on and all that. And we're going to be doing these bi-weekly as the planned cadence, like Bedejo mentioned. And I'm gonna pump a lot more fire into the Discord. So, outside of the calls, there'll still be a lot of activity and whatnot. But again, feel free to just unmute yourself, or you can write in the chat. Otherwise, we don't really have anything else for today. I have one sort of last takeaway or call to action for everybody before we jump off. But I guess if we don't have anything else, then we could probably wrap up. Svetlana, did you want to add something?
Yes. I have one more question for
Sure.
all of you. How do you think? Is it a problem that we have a lot of Russian-speaking community?
Yes, absolutely. No, I'm joking. No,
I understand.
Well, I guess I spoke first, so I'll answer first. But no, absolutely not. I think obviously, beggars can't be choosers in a sense. You can't just say, "Oh, we don't want this community or that community." You start somewhere, and then I think we'll have a very diverse group of people. And again, I'm fairly new here, but what I do know is there hasn't been a lot of marketing, so we haven't sort of targeted any type of language. The Russian-speaking community sort of naturally came here, and you guys contribute a lot, and I think it's very much appreciated. I don't see why it would be any problem at all. But I do think you will see more diversity here, language-wise, as we start doing more marketing activities, because we will, I guess, naturally, we will, do our marketing in English. So we'll probably start to attract, more and more, I guess, native English speakers, and so on and so forth. But from my perspective, it's not a problem.
I agree with you. Yes, I have the same opinion. That as I saw from different testnets, there are a lot of Russian-speaking people everywhere in the crypto space. So
yeah,
it's not a surprise for me.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Okay,
what
thank
about Ben and Bedejo?
Go
I
ahead, Ben,
concur
if
with
you
what
had-
you said. Basically, I'm very happy with. I have no objections towards it. I think it's the community we've got now is very. I mean, even though it's almost entirely Russian speaking. I mean, you're doing a great job, despite in some cases there being a language barrier. Although, of course, some of you are also highly technical and fluent in English, and it means you can manage it a lot easier. But I mean, you're a great community. I mean, we just need to kind of develop you and also make it a bit more diverse. But I mean, it's not essentially. I mean, we could go. We could launch the mainnet with 100% Russian people if we got a few more of. If we could get more of you, then it would not matter at all, because you're managing it in a perfectly competent way. So no, I from my perspective, it's great. Yeah.
And it seems on this call we found out that you're fluent in Russian, right, Ben? So I think people can start to make their submissions in Russian from now on. Or
yeah, feel free. No, I wouldn't say that, but I certainly like Russian-speaking people. I think they're very.
Sorry, where are you from?
Me?
Yes.
I'm from London. Well, I'm from
okay.
Oxford. Yeah, but I certainly think Russian-speaking people tend to be quite down to earth and straightforward. So I appreciate that. I think it's good.
Yeah. My parents lived in Moscow for about 7 years. So I went there. I don't know if anybody here is from Moscow, but you guys know there's a restaurant called Scandinavia. Does anybody know this restaurant? They lived right by it. I like read a book somewhere and they mentioned this restaurant. So that made me think that, okay, well, maybe it's a restaurant that is known there. But there's a Pushkin statue, right? You know that? Yeah, it's right by there. But anyway.
Okay, thank you.
No worries.
I have
Anybody
one
else got any?
question
Yes,
on this
Berejo.
subject, which is how can we make more of the Russian-speaking community comfortable sharing all their views and perspectives with us? Because it's great to have a few voices that could be sort of proxies that give us a view, but it would be even better if we had more of a direct connection. So I don't imagine there's an easy solution that anyone will suggest right now, but how we can get more connected with you guys. I think many of you are more comfortable in writing than speaking, perhaps. I don't know. So that's actually something that would be great if we can improve just for the whole sake of the whole project. And, these new council term summary videos are really great for that reason for me, because I get to actually get some translated content about what people are experiencing, and I couldn't get that any other way. So yeah, there's that.
Yeah, again, I'm not going to have an answer per se, but I have thought about that. And one just basic idea, I guess, would be to have some sort of a leader of the group, right? Or a couple of leaders who are very comfortable, with the English language and speaking, and they could sort of represent, the group as far as, they could take sort of, call it Russian, questions, submissions before calls and show up on these calls and sort of present them in a way that could be.
But we wanted to do it last time. And we did it last time, and nobody wrote in Russian. Everybody wrote in English, and we didn't have any question in Russian. It was strange because
maybe it's a non-issue. I mean, do you guys feel like the Russian community doesn't feel heard, or doesn't feel like they sort of have the chance to get their thoughts across, or because of language barriers or anything like that?
I think that we have a lot of people from Russian-speaking community who always told that I don't know English, I can't communicate, it's difficult for me. That's why when we have community call, they're waiting for translation or something like that to listen to it. But I don't know if they listen and ask some question now, because actually our big and active community, not big. Our active community is not too big. It's around 20 people. And I think that they are all or almost all here now.
Good. Okay. All right. Anybody else got questions, or shall we wrap it up for today? Okay. I think we'll take that as a yes. So I don't know if you guys have any final words, but I wanted to just ask everybody to do one thing, which is, like I said, we would love some more activity in the Discord. So I would love it if you guys go after this call, go into the Discord and think a little bit about how you can see Joystream being used in the future. Like, is there a certain type of application for it, a certain type of app, that, whether it's somebody making the next TikTok, or how could you see Joystream being used in the future? I just want people to think about that a bit and go just drop some thoughts in the Discord. We'll get some ideas going. And a secondary thing is, if there's any sort of, because one way to become a sort of high value founding member that I've seen is like people coming up with their own initiatives, and there's people building tools and things of that nature. So I think the Discord could be another place for sort of brainstorming those ideas. So if anybody has an idea, you don't have to know how to make it, but if you have an idea for something that could be useful that we don't have right now, maybe think about that and drop some comments around that in the Discord, and we could see maybe what comes out of that. And that's all for me. I don't know if Ben and Bedejo have any final words, but thanks a lot, guys.
No, just thanks for coming. Nice to
Thank you,
hear from
everyone.
all of you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. See you next time.
Thanks.
Bye.
Ciao.
Bye.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.